Welcome back, Guardians. Today, I'm here to help you with this week's Grandmaster Nightfall. But before we start, I would just like to remind you that subscribing to the channel is a great way to stay up to date with all the latest uploads, as well as being a great way to support the channel itself. With that being said, let's dive right into the guide. So this week's Grandmaster is the Lake of Shadows, an EDC strike containing only Taken. This of course gives you the option of having Taken Barrier and Armaments for both the 20% damage reduction that Barrier gives, as well as the heavy ammo bricks spawned by Armaments. So pro tip number 1, use Taken Barrier and Armaments if you have them. The second thing I would like to mention is that using a concussion dampener is very good here as well, since there are a couple of annoying Taken Knights that will spit fire on you. This really hurts, more than anything else in the strike, outside of the goddamn hobgoblins. Major resistance is very important versus champions, and yes, champions are considered as majors in the game, and not bosses, even though their health bars are yellow. So having around 3 major resist mods should net you around 20% damage resistance against these guys. The 2 other pieces should definitely have concussive dampeners. Having the artifact mods such as Countercharge could be good for you if you're the team's Unstoppable Stopper or Overload Stopper, since each time you stagger an enemy, you gain a charge of light. If you're not in charge of any of these 2 tasks however, then don't bother. Instead, go for taking charge, so that each orb of light you pick up gives you a stack of charge with light. As for what to spend a stack on, I'd highly recommend high energy fire for some extra DPS. Finally, you should definitely have at least one in the team that uses Oppressive Darkness, since it boosts the entire team's damage dealt to weakened enemies that are affected by the grenade. This should either be a Titan using his top 3 Sentinel subclass or a bottom 3 Night Stalker. So let's take a look at the modifiers this week. The important ones to take a note of is that you will take more damage from knockbacks, as well as fly farther away when getting knocked back due to Grask's Bile, so be considerate about this. The type of champions you will encounter are Unstoppable and Overloaders, so Unstoppable rounds and Overload rounds and/or grenades are a must. So the loadout I would recommend here is pretty straightforward and easy to acquire. Swords. Yep, swords. Get a good falling guillotine from Umbral Engrams that at least has whirlwind blades and you're set. The reason you should have swords are because swords melt the final boss in under 10 seconds. Ads won't have time to spawn, and as soon as the boss dies, a hidden timer starts counting down, and after about another 5 to 10 seconds, you finish the strike, without having to deal with the ads that are now spawning in. Of course, this is a lot easier if you have a bottom 3 Night Stalker that can stealth you after the kill, so that no enemies will attack you, or if you have a top 3 Sentinel that drops his bubble during or after you've killed the boss. Heavy isn't really used that much outside of this in the strike. There are a couple of Unstoppables you can kill with swords if you time it right, but most of the time you will just use snipers to deal with them. If you have your Sanagis and you aren't on Overload stun duty, use that. If you don't have it, use a good rolled Icolo sniper. If you don't have one, you can get one from Umbral Engrams once again. And if you're unsure on what a good roll is, there's an excellent guide on this channel's weapon guide playlist as well. Also remember to use Void Gear so that you can have higher sniper rifle reserves, as well as having a higher chance to find ammo for one. But if you're on Overload stun duty, then having Divinity is a great choice since it gives the rest of your team a lot of breathing room on where to aim for the boosted damage. If you're on Overload duty and you don't have the Divinity, then using a hand cannon with grenades are your only option. This of course opens up either your special or kinetic slot for an exotic, so use this to your advantage. Unstoppable is more free in terms of what you can use. Any pulse rifle or hand cannon will do nicely. Our team went with 2 Sanagis and 1 Divinity. The reasoning behind this was so that we could kill the champions from long distances without any real risk. This worked out pretty well during the first run, which we finished in about 19 minutes, and amazing during subsequent runs. One thing to really take by heart is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Take your time with all the champions, and when you're comfortable, you can improve the speeds and try and optimize your routes. Hopefully these tips and tricks will get you through this week's Grandmaster Nightfall. If you have any questions about loadouts or builds, you're more than welcome to hit me up on my Twitter, which you can find in the video description, or you can ask me for help in the comments down below. With that being said, I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful in your own runs. And as always, I want to remind you once again that subscribing to the channel is a great way to stay up to date on the latest uploads, as well as being a great way to support the channel. Next time, we're probably going to be talking about the falling guillotine, but until that time, this is TC Spectre, signing off.